Hello, world, and welcome to the Quick Kick Picks presented by the Bros Talking Soccer. My name is Dave Knittel here with my brother Christian to discuss MLS Match Week 28. Christian, hello, how are you doing?
Hello. I just want to let the listeners know that if this is your first time, that's not Dave's real voice. I don't know what the hell that was, but it was high-pitched. Trust me, that will not be lasting the whole video, so do not fret.
We'll see. I mean, we don't really know, what's happening. Also, they are viewers. They're not listeners. This isn't the podcast, Christian.
Well, they could listen. I listen to a lot of YouTube videos.
You to recognize that. Hello, we are brothers in case you didn't get that. We're going to be talking about MLS Match Week 28. Everybody's back from the international break. We got 12 matches that we're going to be discussing here. Play along with us. So we give our predictions for these 12 MLS games, but you can give your predictions as well. You can leave it on the YouTube video as a comment, or preferably tweet at us at BT Soccer Pod to play along. You don't need to give each individual game. You can send us all as one big lump sum, or you can respond to each individual video. If you get the home team score correct, that is a point. If you get the away team score correct, that is a point. If you get the result of the match correct, that is a point. Christian, do you know what happens if you get those three things correct for each match?
Dave, if you can believe it, you get a 2 bonus point. Bam! You get 5 points up for grabs in every single match. So yes. 60 points are up this weekend.
Yes, absolutely. And we've been having quite a few people get multiple predictions right. Shout out to Doopy Brothers for getting 2 predictions right in our midweek games. And so they were able to fly up our standings very quickly. So if this is your first time watching, hey, play along with us. Leave a prediction. You can make up ground very, very quickly. We break it up, our competition, to each individual month. So for the month of September, we are only, I think, 2 or 3 weeks into it. 2 or 3 match weeks, I should say, or half match week, whatever the heck you want to say it. You can make up ground very quickly. So play along with us. Leave your predictions. Also, Twitter restricts us to 2 minutes and 20 seconds per video. We cut up each of these games we talk about into their own individual Twitter videos. And so we have a timer listed here that keeps us on track. 2 minutes and 5 seconds. A whistle will go off like a soccer whistle. Get it? Because this is a soccer thing. That is a signal for us to move along. If you happen to be watching this live, which I forgot to tweet out, but if you happen to be watching this live and leave a comment, no, we are not ignoring you. I will circle back on your comments, but because we have that time restriction, I'm not going to be responding in real time, but I am listening to you. I see you, and we will circle back on that at the end. So please leave your comments. Christian, anything else you would like to add before we get going here?
I'm just ready to talk about some soccer.
Raring to go. All right, let's do it. Kicking things off right here. That's what I want to press. Kicking things off on Saturday, September 14th, we have NYCFC hosting the San Jose Earthquakes at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Christian, what are you expecting to happen in this game?
I expect to see some fireworks in this one. Both of them are playing for a lot right now. San Jose fighting for a playoff spot, and NYCFC, I'm expecting to come out looking like the team that's going for the Eastern Conference title. They have played a lot of games in a short time. They've played, I think, 2 games over the international break. They're getting a lot of their stars coming back from international break. They still are missing a couple of people, I think, through injury, but they're definitely going to be helpful. I think this is just a really tough game to predict. I expect another draw, and I think it's going to be a high-scoring draw. I'm going with a 2-2 game here, and San Jose are going to be playing for their lives right now, which pretty much is the case with what's happening in the Western Conference and the playoff race. So NYCFC will be desperate to win as well, but a 2-2 draw is what I'm seeing in this one.
Yeah, I hope you're right from a Union fan perspective. I'm going to go a slightly different way, and I think NYCFC ultimately wins this one 3-1. One quick point, it's really odd that this is the early game because both of these teams played midweek. So usually they try to give them a little bit extra time. I don't know if the Yankees situation has to do with what's going on here, but that's a little bit odd. NYCFC, they drew midweek 1-1 with Toronto. That snapped a 5-game winning streak, but they are still undefeated at home since July 7th, the top of the Eastern Conference, getting 1.9 goals per game, and that's tied for second in the league at home. They're only conceding 1.2 goals per game, and that's also tied for second in the league. Actually, the 1.9 is just overall, not just at home. San Jose, meanwhile, they lost 1-0 on the road at RSL midweek. Their poor road form continues. They have 4 straight road losses, 2 goals scored, and 9 conceded in those 4 games. 0.9 points per game on the road. That's bottom third in the league. Our homemade shots-based expected goals model has this one 1.61 to 1.51 in favor of NYCFC. San Jose, because they take so many shots, they're a little bit higher on that. I still think that, Christian, you touched on it, fatigue is going to play a role here, but I think NYCFC wins this one 3-1. Anything else you want to mention?
Nope.
Getting to our next game, we have the Chicago Fire hosting FC Dallas at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Shout out the Brimstone Cup for all you OG MLS fans back when FC Dallas was the Burn. MLS trying to make that a thing. Both these clubs have been off for 2 weeks and no competitive games during the international break. Christian, that was an excellent hand motion. I've never seen that before. That was fantastic. So it'll be interesting to see if there is rest versus rust going on here. Chicago, they've won 2 straight home games. They're undefeated in their last 4 at home. They're middle of the league as far as home form is concerned, though, on points per game, though they score more than 2 goals per game, which is in the top third in the league. So they're relatively good as far as goals scored, but results are kind of middle of the pack as far as home teams are concerned. It would take a miracle for them to qualify for the playoffs, but they technically are still alive, and so that might help them here. Dallas, meanwhile, they're in a battle for the Western Conference. They're 7th or 8th, depending on how the Galaxy match went, so I think they are still 7th. Bottom third of the league on away points per game, and they have a -7 road goal difference in 14 matches, so they're not great on the road. Homemade shots-based expected goals is this one 1.57 to 1.02 in favor of Dallas. I expect this one to ultimately, though, end up as a 2-2 draw. Christian, what do you think?
You said miracle, which we're going to come back to later, but Chicago, I think, has been terrible at home. I mean, It's not the worst in the league, but they have not been good. And you have to make your home stadium a fortress if you want to be competitive in this league. And they just haven't done that. I think FC Dallas should be coming into this game as a favored team. I think that they're playing decently well right now. They haven't been the best on the road, but they are able to get results at times on the road. They're playing for a Western Conference spot, so I expect them to be up for this game more so than Chicago, who really are just playing to save face. I think FC Dallas do end up grinding this result out and will be a 2-1 victory for Dallas in this game.
Interesting. So before we move on to the next game, anyone watching, go over to the Soccer Tavern YouTube channel and search for Miracle. Is that how you pronounce it? I never get this right.
Correct.
Miracle. Yes. So, and that'll give you a little bit more details on why Christian is laughing. And yeah, you'll see what the heck we're talking about. It's an outtakes video from a video we recorded over there. And I couldn't say the word miracle.
Word.
Well, the word. Next game we're talking about, we have Atlanta United hosting the Columbus Crew at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Saturday. Christian, what are you expecting to happen in this game?
Well, I think this is probably the most straightforward match of the week, in my opinion. I mean, there might be some others in here, but this should be an easy win for Atlanta. At home, they have been just an elite team. They didn't start the best this season, but ever since about June, they have just been absolutely on fire. I expect them to just show that might this week. I think Josef Martinez just continues to score, and it's at a frightening rate. I think Columbus do not have the tools to stop him, and this is going to be a big win for Atlanta. I'm predicting a 5-0 scoreline for Atlanta. I think they're too strong in the attack and too strong defensively for Columbus to really pose a threat to them this week.
Interesting. So I agree that it's going to be a big Atlanta victory, but I'm not willing to go that big. I'm going to say it ultimately ends up 3-0. Now, Atlanta lost 3-1 to Philly 2 weeks ago, but they had a rotated lineup and they looked a little bit tired in that game. I'm not going to be putting too much stock into that result. They should be rejuvenated for this one. They're the second best home team in the entire MLS, 2.4 points per game at home. They're conceding 0.6 goals per game at home. That is best in the league. And they have 7 straight home wins across all competitions, and they are undefeated in their last 15 home matches. They were pretty good at home. Moral of that story, Columbus, meanwhile, they drew at home versus the Fire 2 weeks ago. The most recent road match was a 3-1 win at FC Cincinnati. Don't put too much stock into that because FC Cincinnati are the worst team in the league and worst home team. Their last 5 road games for Columbus are 2 wins, 2 draws, and 1 loss. So not terrible form, but on the season, they're bottom 25% of the league with 0.8 points per game on the road. And they're also bottom of the league in away goals scored, coming up against Atlanta's stout defense. That's not a great sign for them. Homemade shots based expected goals says this one 1.53 to 1.04 in favor of Atlanta. And like I said, I ultimately expect them to get a 3-0 win here. Christian, anything else you would like to add?
Yeah, I just do not think that Columbus have strengthened enough and have too many injuries in key places, specifically for Higuain, to really pose a threat in the attack. And Atlanta's defense, as you touched on, is just probably the best in the league right now up there with LAFC.
Fair enough. Next game we're talking about, we have Orlando City hosting the New England Revolution at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Orlando have no wins in their last 4 matches, but they are coming off a somewhat impressive draw at home versus LAFC. Anytime you can get points against LAFC, that's going to be a good sign. Orlando is tied for 3rd worst home points per game in the league with only 1.3, though, so that is not a great side. They're conceding and scoring 1.4 goals per game on average at home. Only 4 teams have a worse home average goal difference, so not a great sign for Orlando. New England, meanwhile, they lost at NYCFC last weekend, but they can feel a little bit hard done by that because of those VAR calls, specifically the early red card, which ultimately was overturned. That was their first road loss since May, though, and after being on a ridiculous run of form from mid-May to the end of July, the Revs only have 1 win in their last 6 matches. So they are stumbling a little bit towards the finish line. They have 3 draws and 2 losses onto that. I do think Arena gets them going, ready for the playoffs, and they ultimately prevail 2-1 on the road, but it's going to be really tight. Christian, what are you expecting?
Speaking of stumbling, Dave and Words are not getting along too well today. I think this game is going to be a win for New England. I think they are really, really good on the road, as you've just touched on, specifically since Arena came in. They're able to grind out results, and Orlando just have not been up to the task. They are one of the worst teams in the league at home. I don't think that they have been playing well enough, and it shows in their position in the table. I think this is a game that New England look at and say, okay, this is a huge chance for us to get points on the road before we have some tough games up against NYCFC coming up. They have to start getting results now, and I think that they do. I think this is going to be a 2-0 victory for New England. I don't think Orlando are going to grab a goal in this game, and I just think that Bruce Arena gets it right. He knows what it's like to be in this playoff race late in the season, and it's going to show again.
Homemade shots based expected goals is this one 1.53 to 1.18 in favor of Orlando, but I still think New England gets it done here. Next match we are talking about, one we're especially excited about, Philadelphia Union hosting LAFC at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Saturday. Christian, what do you think is going to happen?
Oh my, this is a very, very difficult game for me to predict. I think this is, and by I think, I mean this is the best game of the weekend. This is arguably the top 2 teams in each conference. NYCFC probably have things to say about that. Atlanta as well. Yeah. But LAFC are clearly the best team in the league. They're going cross-country here. They're coming off an international break. They're not sure if Carlos Vela is fully healthy yet. I am not sure what type of team LAFC are really going to be bringing here. They have very little to play for other than just to keep fresh for the playoffs at this point. They clearly are the best team in the West, best team in MLS right now. Philadelphia, on the other hand, are gunning for that top position in the East. They want to make the road to the final in the playoffs as easy as possible, get that bye. I expect them to come in full force. They didn't have a lot of people on an international break. They had a few, but not too many. I expect them to come in refreshed. Philadelphia off of, I think they had 2 weeks off, unlike LAFC, who have had to play games in the international window. Philadelphia get this result, and it's going to be a comeback, come from behind victory, in my opinion. LAFC score first, but they win 2-1 in the end.
All right. Yeah. And so we're recording before lineups are released. So we don't know if Vela is going to be playing here. And obviously that is a huge impact. Philly, meanwhile, they're one of the best home sides in MLS, 2.2 points per game at home. That's fourth in the league, 2.3 goals scored at home. That's second in the league. They have a 1.2 home goal difference, and that is third in the league. So Philly's a top 4 or 5 team in the league. LAFC, meanwhile, they are runaway top of the league in all metrics, specifically on the road, though. They are very good, but they're winless in their last 3, and that's kind of coincided with the Vela injury, so that is something definitely to keep an eye on here. I agree this is the matchup of the weekend. Homemade shots based expected goals has won 1.51 to 1.46 in favor of Philly, but it's going to be really tight. Head is saying it's going to be 2-2, but ultimately I'm going with my heart and predicting Philly prevails 3-2. Anything else?
Nope.
Next game we are talking about, we have the Montreal Impact hosting FC Cincinnati at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Montreal is coming off of a 3-0 home loss to DC United, and that was a crushing blow for their playoff chances. Montreal is 16th in the league in home points per game, 21st in the league with 1.4 goals scored per game on average at home. They're one of only 4 teams to have a negative home goal difference, but they're playing FC Cincinnati, who is the worst team in the league. But surprisingly, they're not the worst on the road by every metric, if that's something to be excited about. They are worst, however, with conceding 2.6 goals per game, and they only score 1 goal per game. They've lost 4 consecutive matches. They haven't won since July 13th, which happened to be a road game at Chicago. They have 1 draw and 8 losses since that July 13th win. Homemade shots based expected goals has this one 1.39 to 0.94 for FC Cincinnati. They're the only one in our model to have a less than 1 expected goals. I think Montreal prevails 3-1. Christian, what do you think?
Yeah, I only can predict Montreal to win this game. FC Cincinnati have been shockingly poor this year, and I expect them to get better in future seasons, but this is not the season that they were hoping for in year number 1 of their existence at MLS. So I expect Montreal to be pushing for that final playoff spot. They're only 2 points back of New England right now, but New England do have that game in hand. The Red Bulls also have a game in hand and are 4 points ahead. Montreal, that loss last week really is devastating. And or is it 2 weeks ago? Sorry. Yeah. Their last match was absolutely devastating. They need to get this point, or these 3 points, and they will. They're going to get it because they're playing FC Cincinnati. It will keep them in the discussion. Eventually, I think they do fall out, and they're the team that missed the playoffs. But this is a game they have pretty much wrapped up before it even starts. I'm predicting a 3-0 victory for Montreal.
All right, so we both have 3 goals for Montreal. I have Cincinnati sneaking one on the road for 3-1. Well, now we got a quiet whistle. I think it's when I look at my phone that it gets quiet. I think I've discovered that. Next game we're talking about, the Vancouver Whitecaps are hosting the Houston Dynamo at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Saturday, September 14th. Nightcap. Christian, what do you think is going to happen?
I think this will be a nightcap for Houston Dynamo here. I think that Vancouver have been very, very poor, specifically the entire season, so not very specifically. And at home, they have not gotten the job done when they need to. And obviously, they're probably going to finish last in the West. I don't even know if that's a probably or a definitely at this point. It pretty much is definite. Yeah. And Houston are just in terrible form as well right now. They're probably out of the playoffs. They're right on that. I mean, they're probably just surviving right now, but I don't see them getting into the playoffs this year. Yeah. Are they pretty much all the way up? They're not officially.
They're not officially eliminated, but they're more or less eliminated.
Yeah, so they've been in a terrible run of form probably since July, and it has just not gotten better. People expected them to score goals. They do have talented attackers, but they have just not gelled really together towards the end of this season. It's been a devastating collapse, but I think being at Vancouver keeps them in the discussion a little bit. I think they're going to get this result, and I'm going with a 2-0 victory for Houston in this one.
Interesting. So I have this one ultimately ending up as a 1-1 draw. Vancouver, they have 3 straight losses, and they've lost 4 of their last 5. They're the lowest scoring home team in the league. They're scoring less than a goal per game at home on average, and they're conceding 1.4 goals per game at home on average. So that is the second worst home goal differential in the entire league. They have a -7 at their 14 matches. Houston, meanwhile, they beat Minnesota midweek. That was their first win in their last 7 MLS matches. Having said that, they are the worst road team in the league with 0.4 goals points per game. They're conceding 2.4 goals per game on the road, and they only have 2 road wins all year. That last one came on July 20th at Toronto, so that was almost 2 months ago. Homemade shots based expected goals has this one 1.3 to 1.33 in favor of Houston. It's really one of the worst home teams versus one of the worst road teams, and I think it ultimately ends up as a 1-1 draw. Anything else?
Nope.
Switching gears to Sunday, September 15th, we have the Portland Timbers hosting DC United at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Portland has had 2 straight home wins over Western Conference opponents. That has got them into the playoffs, and they can climb as high as second in the West, depending on how their games in hand play out. This is game 7 of a 10-match homestand for them. They have 4 wins and 2 draws. 4 wins, 2 losses, no draws in that homestand. They're middle of the league with a 1.9 points per game on average at home. Their goals for and goals against at home are also middle of the pack. So they are more or less a middle of the pack home side, which is a little surprising to me because I always think of Portland as having that incredible home field advantage. DC, meanwhile, they've been in poor form basically since mid-May. I don't know why I keep saying that, but they won 3-0 at Montreal 2 weeks ago. Kamara has been a fantastic signing for them at striker. We're recording this before lineups are announced, so if he's in there, that's going to be a boost for DC. But I ultimately think Portland just has too much talent here. I think our homemade shots based expected goals model has this one 1.93 to 1.18 in favor of Portland, and I think that sounds about right. Portland wins 2-1. Christian, what do you expect?
Yeah, I think Portland are heavy favorites in this game just because of the talent they have of their team is better than DC United right now. I think DC are a team that are going to make the playoffs in the East, and they were a team that were challenging really for the Eastern Conference title until about May or June, and then they kind of fell apart. They have not looked very good in the big games this season. They have not gotten results, and it's shown. This is another game against a top team, and they're probably the team that's going to finish between 2nd and 4th in the West. DC do not have the capability to go cross country. I don't know if they will even start all of their stars. I bet they do just because, and obviously we don't have the lineups while we're recording this, but they will because they're in a playoff race. I expect everyone to throw everything they've got in every game pretty much other than LAFC at this point. So I'm predicting Portland to win this game 3-1 at home in a dominant victory.
Quick point, DC is actually not terrible on the road. They're 3rd best in the league, 1.3 points per game, and they only concede 1.1 goals per game on the road. That's 2nd best in the league, so that's something else to watch out for. Next match we are talking about, we have Toronto FC hosting the Colorado Rapids at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Christian, what do you think is going to happen in this one?
Toronto got a big point on the road. I keep mixing up NYC and LAFC at NYCFC, and I think that's going to carry them through this game. Colorado are out of the playoff discussion, really, not officially, but pretty much at this point. I expect Toronto to be pushing for those final positions, and they are in the playoff right now, I believe, in the standings.
Yeah, they're up to 6th.
Yeah, so they're in 4th right now in the East, which is absolutely shocking, but they are probably one of the top 4 talents of the East. They really have a very deep roster, specifically in the attack. Defensively, there are question marks over their ability, but Colorado have the ability to score goals, as we've touched on many, many times this season. I expect them to score here, but Toronto just have that ability. They have the experience. They've won MLS Cup in recent seasons. Yes, the team has changed quite a bit in that time, but they still have a lot of those key players, and I think that's going to carry them through. They win this game 3-1 at home.
All right, Toronto, they're undefeated in their last 8 matches across all competitions. They're tied for the 4th highest scoring team in the league. Christian, you touched on that. But they're 15th in the league in goals conceded, so their defense is middle to lower half of the table. They're also 15th in the league with 1.7 points per game at home. So BMO Field has not been a fortress for Toronto this year. Colorado, they got a good result midweek. They beat the Galaxy 2-1. Had some beneficial calls from VAR, but they're not complaining. They've been playing well under new manager Robin Fraser. They have 3 straight wins and 3 straight matches where they've scored at least 2 goals. I said it in our midweek quick kick picks. If the Rapids score 2 goals, they haven't dropped points since May 11th. Also, their underlying numbers are middle of the pack as far as roadsides are concerned, but they're only averaging 0.7 points per game on the road. That is 20th in the league, so they're not a great roadside. Our homemade shots based expected goals has this one 1.86 to 1.28 in favor of Toronto, and I think they ultimately get a 2-0 win here. Anything else?
Nope.
Next game we are talking about, we have Almost knocked over my phone. Minnesota United hosting Real Salt Lake at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Sunday. I have this as my second best matchup of the weekend behind the Philly LAFC game. Both of these sides are competing in the West, second and fourth. RSL is second and Minnesota is fourth at time of recording. Minnesota, they lost midweek at Houston, but they're returning home for the first time since August 17th. So that is 4 matches on the road across all competitions consecutively. They have the second best home defensive record. They're only conceding 0.7 points per game at home. That is very impressive. They're scoring 1.6 goals per game at home, and that is 17th in the league, so not quite as impressive, but they only have 1 home loss in the entire season. That came way back in June. RSL, meanwhile, they're pretty poor on the road, 0.9 goals per game on the road. That is tied for worst in the league. 0.9 points per game is 13th in the league, and they're averaging 1.6 goals against. That's actually 5th in the league on the road, but I still think Minnesota prevails in a tight 1-0 victory. Homemade shots based expected goals has this one 1.68 to 1.15 in favor of Minnesota. Christian, what do you think is going to happen?
Yeah, I think RSL have been riding their luck in these home games, and they haven't been as dominant on the road as you would expect. A lot of teams in MLS are the same way. Minnesota, on the other hand, have had a very, very good home record this season, specifically in the second half of the year. I expect them to ride that luck and continue to play with that form. Minnesota are going to win this game 2-0. I think they just have too much in the attack. RSL just don't have that final piece. I think they're a very talented, very good squad, but they're not one of the upper echelon teams. I think Minnesota are the better team right now, as they've proven. They went to LAFC and got a win. Like, they have had big results this season. In this game where they're pushing for a home playoff game, you're going to see them up for it. And I think Minnesota win this game 2-0. I don't think RSL are able to score on the road.
Yeah, and Allianz Field has become a fortress for them, and it's been very impressive from them, and I think that it really benefits them having this game at home, and I agree with you. I think Minnesota gets a shutout win here. Quiet whistle. Next game, second to last game we're talking about, we have the Seattle Sounders hosting the New York Red Bulls at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Sunday. I'm not sure if the 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is correct. I'll double check that. Okay. Christian, what do you think is going to happen here?
I think Seattle win this game, but I think the Red Bulls put up a fight. I think they're really good about pressuring teams, specifically in the final third. I think they're really good about trying to win the ball back in the attack, and specifically the Red Bulls I'm talking about, and getting goals quickly. I think Seattle may struggle with that a little bit, but they are the better team. They're more talented right now. They're a team that are going for that second place in the West, which pretty much is like fighting for first at this point, because first has been decided for so long. So they're going for just a big boost in the playoff race. What?
I don't know if I understand that logic, but yeah.
I mean, it's practically
it's
first
fight.
because there's something else to fight for, because first has been over for so long.
Okay.
So the New York Red Bulls have done pretty well in recent weeks. They're fighting for a home playoff spot as well in the East. I expect them to be up for this game, but it's just Seattle at home. We've seen it over and over again. They have that support. They have the home field advantage, something that a lot of teams you just don't see specifically. I think they play on turf as well, right? So that's another advantage to them. I expect Seattle to grind through this game and really not have too much difficulty other than maybe conceding 1 goal. I think it's a 3-1 victory for Seattle.
So I agree with it being high scoring. I go one step further. I have it being a 4-2 victory for Seattle. Seattle's a pretty good home team, but they haven't really been impressive all season. Their talent is much better than just being a +1 goal difference, which is tied for 12th in the league at time of recording. Top 5 in home points per game and home goals scored, but 15th in the league with 1.4 goals conceded per game at home. Red Bulls, meanwhile, they've lost 2 straight, but they've been off for 2 weeks. They're tied for 6th in goals scored and road points per game, but again, 14th in the league in goals conceded per game. So the numbers say both score a lot and concede a lot, and that's why I have this being high scoring 4-2. Christian, anything else you want to add?
Nope.
Last game on Sunday and last game of the weekend, we have the LA Galaxy hosting Sporting Kansas City at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Now, the Galaxy are winless in their last 4 matches. I have a little bit of sympathy for them because of that VAR calls in the Colorado match. But over their last 10 matches, they have 2 wins, 2 draws, and 6 losses. That's just not good enough from a team as talented as they are. They have 1 clean sheet in that run. They've scored 16 goals, which isn't terrible, but they've conceded 25 goals over those 10 matches. That is not good. good whatsoever. They're outside of the playoffs with a -5 goal difference. Sporting Kansas City, meanwhile, they had a heartbreaking stoppage time loss to Portland last weekend. I think that was the final nail in their playoff coffin. Prior to that, they had won 3 straight, but all those came at home. On the road, they're picking up 0.9 points per game. That is tied for 13th in the league, but they've actually won 3 of their last 7 on the road. So again, not terrible. I think that the Galaxy ultimately need to wake up here, and Zlatan has a good performance. If he is in the lineup, I expect them to win 2-1. Christian, what do you expect then?
Honestly, I think SKC are fighting for their life right now, and if they are able to win this game, they're only 2 points back of the Galaxy and only 3 points back if Dallas lose for the final playoff spot. So if they are able to win, they are very much alive. That being said, I don't expect them to win. I expect the Galaxy to finally find that form that they've been missing in recent weeks. They now know, okay, we are out of the playoffs right now where it stands. They've played just as many games as everybody else, so they don't have any games at hand. It's go time right now. They have 5 games left to really establish themselves, and they can move up the table pretty quickly. There's only a 4-point gap up to second, so I expect Ibra to be the player that everyone expects him to be. He is considered the best player or second best player in the league right now, and he's got to show it, and he will. I think this is a big performance from him. They win this game, and I'm going to go with a 4-1 scoreline in a dominant victory because they need to finally stamp their just authority on this league and on the West.
Homemade shot space expected goals has this one 1.44 to 1.4. So really tight in this one, slightly favoring the LA Galaxy. Christian, anything else you would like to say here?
I don't think so.
Okay. So this has been the Quick Kick Picks. There it is. Quick Kick Picks presented by Bros Talking Soccer. If you like what we're doing here, check out our website, brostalkingsoccer.com. You can support us. You can buy some of our merch. You can buy us a shot if you like what we're doing here. $3 helps support the show, and all proceeds go to costs of running everything. You know, we have a streaming service that we use. We have hosting and all of that. And if you like what we're doing, we would greatly appreciate that. So please consider doing it. And we thank you so much for tuning in, watching this video. Make sure to leave your predictions. Send us a tweet at BT Soccer Pod or leave a comment below the video. Sal, thank you very much for being here and joining us. I know you're a Galaxy fan, so I wanted to throw that up for you. Apologies for the ref's performance midweek. But, Christian, you want to take us home here?
Yeah, let's go get some matches played.